Right, so I'm about ready to stitch this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here on this corner. I'm going to stitch this decorative edge here first. Then I'm going to actually stitch with the same threading the sides through here, and then stitch along there till I get to the other side, and then I'm going to put the side in and install it that way. So I need to know how many holes are in this and make sure I know exactly where that's going to line up. So now I'm going to count holes. It's more important on this side because I'm going to stitch this way. This side I need to know where the holes are going to be. See, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch to there and just stop. I really want to start this at the edge. So I'm going to hold off on this piece, but I'm going to sew this one in one continuous piece. So I need enough thread to go all the way around this piece 3 times. See here, something that's heavy enough to hold it down. There you go, that's enough. Let's see. Okay, that's one piece there, and I need 3 times that. So, I'm going to go to, make sure, might have, right here. There you go. There we go. This is going to be a lot of stitching, so I'm going to be time-lapsing part of this video so that you don't have to sit there and just watch me stitch for, I'm guessing, about an hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to do as I've always done. Pull about this much thread out and then push this through the center of the thread like so. Sometimes it doesn't want to go. Like so. Push it through. Pull it tight. And I'm going to go to the other side. When you have this much thread, there's a really good chance of it snagging on stuff. It can't be helped without having a completely clear workspace. And okay, I'm going to time-lapse this portion of the video simply because I've covered it before. So I'm going to stitch the decorative stitching portion of this pouch right along that edge. This helps to hold in the lining. I'm not even going to worry about doing a double loop on the end because it's going to be double looped when I put the side piece in. So I'm going to start right along that edge, stitching through the lining and through the main pouch. That helps to hold the lining into place, and it also provides decoration. So it serves what you might call an aesthetic function, as well as a functional or practical function. So you have it. Be careful when you're stitching in these holes that you don't separate the lining. I mean, sometimes you'll get little areas that are just slightly loose, and if you push incorrectly, you can actually push the lining out away from the other piece of leather. So I recommend you do your first needle push on the lining side. It helps to hold the lining in place for when you push the other needle through. Be careful not to split your threads. This is particularly true when you get to the side pieces, because if you split the thread when you get to the side pieces, it can make it very difficult. Now the sides that I made for this, when I get to that point, it's important to understand that this was just done off the cuff based on my knowledge of side pieces and how to make them. I mean, I don't have a ton of experience. I'm an amateur. I could literally count how many times I've done a side piece like the ones I'm going to be putting into this. So when I actually set to the task of creating the revised pattern, I'm going to account for any variances or challenges that I faced in trying to do this. As you can see, I just put on my gloves because it helps when you're pulling a lot of thread to have gloves on so it doesn't cut your skin. Because if I thread for too long, when you're tugging on the threading, it'll eventually cut through your skin and create bleeding areas. So yeah, as I was saying on the side pieces, you got to be very careful when you notch those little areas that are supposed to fold inward, that you don't put a hole too close to that notched area. Because what will happen, if there's not enough leather there, when you put the thread through, the thread will break through the side and cause a problem. So you need to make sure you have at least 1/16 of an inch plus from the hole to the side of one of those notches on the side pieces. You'll see it when I get to the point where I'm actually stitching the side pieces in, that one of them, the holes were too close to the edge and the thread just broke right through it. So just be aware of that. It's more important to have the hole, less holes, and have them in the right place, even if you have to skip a hole on the main pouch, than it is to have a hole for every single one of the holes on the outside, and then end up having your thread break through holes. See, it's hard to explain it without seeing it. So the portion where I'm doing the side pieces is not going to be time-lapse, so you can actually see what I'm doing and see firsthand the challenges I faced. And I'm going to be doing a version of this that I'm going to actually keep for myself. That's going to be more of a purist version with no Resolene or anything. And that one I'm going to do the pieces correctly based on whatever challenges I faced. Because technically this project's already done and I've experienced those challenges. I'm just getting to the point of doing the video editing now because I'm, bogged down a little bit on the video editing. It happens. So I'm almost at the edge here, and I'll go back to regular mode. Okay, this is the part where I start stitching the sides in place, and it's a little tricky to start because I have to push this through the top hole here and through there. As you can see, I'll push that through there, pull it through, and then I'm going to push this one through the two holes there, pull it through, try not to get it snagged on anything, which it seems like I have here. What the heck is going on here? That's great. Okay, got all these threads all tangled up. Okay, so I now have this stitched through the top hole here, through the top hole there, and I'm going to push it through the second, like that. Like so. Push this through the second. Push it through. So now it's pushed through the first and second hole. I'm going to do it through the top one more time. I'm literally going to come back up through. That's the wrong one. I want to do a double loop here, so I'm going to push it up through the top one over again to double loop that top. Bring it all the way in, like so. Do the same thing here. That's going to double the loop at the top there and make it especially strong. Because you really don't want that top portion to ever come loose, because that will, if that happens, then you know you're going to have problems later on. Okay. So now there's a lot of threads right in through there. It's going to get a little bit tricky to pull on it, but keep pushing it through. Now you're going to stitch it just along the straight, like I've shown you before, as if you're just stitching two pieces of leather together. Making sure you're getting in that hole there. Like so. This is what I mean about snagging on stuff. Okay. Keep the threading out of the way. You don't want to get these threads mixed up. Whew, it's hot. Yep, I got it all wrapped up on that. Okay. I got that pulled through. Now grab this one. Like so. Eventually it'll go around like this. That's what we're going to be working on. As you can see, I'm having a bit of a challenge trying to keep these threads from getting tangled up. You really don't want them tangled up, believe me. I just snagged my pencil over here. Make sure you got the right thread. Okay. Slowly but surely it's coming together. We haven't gotten to the round part yet, but we'll be there shortly. And there's a slight chance I'll have to change my needle because the round on this circles all the way around. And since you're doing an internal stitch, it can actually cause a problem if you're not careful. You may not be able to avoid it. Okay. Yeah. This is where it gets tricky. This is where you're going to have to deal with the round. Okay? This hole right there is technically the next hole. And it needs to go into this part right there in order for this to work right. So, first thing I need to do is I'm going to stitch the next hole, because technically there should be a hole right here, but there isn't. Stitch that, and then stitch like this. Try to get it through there. Doesn't want to go through. Careful not to split your thread, because that can cause problems. Okay, now I'm going to stitch through the next hole right here. This goes into here, like so, and you're going to actually push it into this hole right here on the round, like so. Keep this out of the way here. I'm going to push it into this round, like here. Push it all the way through. And then the other one's going to go through here, and it's going to come around here. We're actually creating the round right now. And you'll see here in a sec what that's going to do. It's going to cause this to kind of circle around. So we're going to do the next one. In through here. And that hole right there. Pull it through. Other one. Go in here. And then back through this hole. Like so. Oh, dang it. That continues the round. Okay, we're going to do the same thing here. Push it through this hole there and into the next hole right here. Try not to split this thread like I did right there. You can see it's a little frayed. That's what happens when you split the thread. Be really careful there because it looks like I just broke through the hole. That's the problem with stitching your hole so close to the edge. Right. Did I have the wrong one? Looks like I did. Okay. It's this one that goes through there. That's not good. Look at that. I just split my thread over here. See if I can pull it back through. And I did, so saved it. But I'm still having a problem right here, because that hole is now ruined. Have to be really careful with the next one here. God, these holes are just breaking. That's the second hole that's broke on me. Okay. This is a crucial hole right here. If this one breaks, I'll literally have to redo the whole piece, because I cannot afford to have this one break. You're supposed to pull that in like so and do the round. Okay. That hole's really close to that, fortunately. In order to try and keep it from breaking, I am going to stitch 2 holes first, like so, and then I'll pull them all together. Crap, I got this wound all the way around. It's really easy to do. Okay, I've got these two holes. I need to do one more right here. Up. Pull up the lining. Okay. Pull it nice and tight, and you can see it's slowly making the round, but it is posing a challenge here, trying to keep these pieces from breaking. I have to do the same thing here, where I do two holes at once, because that one does not look like it's going to hold up. It just popped off. So it's already shot. That's the problem with doing a hole so close to an edge like that. So that hole there is ruined. Dang it. This is not working out very well. Okay. So that means I'm going to have to depend on the next two to really pull it in place. And that's going to be right here. Like so. I cannot split that thread. If I do, it's going to fray all the way down that line. Okay. Make sure that's not going to get in the way. Okay. So what I've done here is I had to go to the second hole, because that one broke too. Like so. Pull it back in. Help it along if you have to. Like so. Once I get it up through the next one, it'll help to secure it. go. This is where it starts to get a little bit tight. See, as you're trying to make this round here, because you start stitching on the inside, and that's where it gets a little tricky. Trying to do this without messing up the lining too. If you have to, just do one hole at a time, like so. Sometimes it's easier to do one hole at a time than it is to do both of them. That one doesn't want to go through. There we go, finally. I'm literally doing one hole at a time here because of the challenge of doing this. Okay, pull that through. Slowly making the round. I stitched these holes, I punched these holes a little bit too close to the edge. It's part of the problem. One hole at a time so you don't screw it up. Get this out of the way of this. There we go. see the round starting to take shape. Okay, we got one more hole, and then the round portion of the pouch has been done. Oops. There we go. At least on this side. I know there's a frustration factor here that tells you just want to move on and you don't want to double loop this hole because I'm feeling it myself, but it has to be done. This hole absolutely has to be double looped, even if you don't want to. That's a tough one to get through too. There we go. Okay. I've gone back one loop on both sides. Pull tight. Now I got to go back up through the top loop again. Like so. And then one more here. Like so. And we've gotten that portion of the round done. Like this. Okay, so that's the first portion of the round. As you can see, that's the side pocket right there. Okay, now I just stitch up this like I normally would. Make sure you get the right side and just stitch right up the edge. Whew. Man. That is a challenge doing that. Well, I think it's time for a break. So I'm going to take a little break. Right, I've gotten through the first side piece, so now I'm just doing the edge stitching again. I'm going to go ahead and do this section again, time lapse, because most people fast forward through this stuff anyway. They really don't want to see someone just stitch, saddle stitch over and over again. And I can't say I blame them. It can be a little tedious. That's why a lot of these expert videos, 80% of what they do is time lapsed, or they just do little snippets of the job and leave out all the tedium altogether and just kind of make you do it on your own, figure it out on your own. I mean, one of the issues I have with that though is if you encounter a problem, it's good that people know what that problem is and how to resolve it. And it's really hard to do that with time lapse without stopping the video in certain areas and saying, okay, this is where I screwed up or did something wrong and now it needs to be corrected, and this is what you can do to avoid having the same problem. Because make no mistake, if you've seen all of these videos, you know I encountered a lot of issues. Everything from the flap being a little offset on the back and I had to cut the little edges, to splitting my threads, to having issues with the lining not gluing all along the edge in certain areas, to putting the hole in the wrong place because it was set for a different type of pouch, to having issues with the buttons because the posts were too long and having to grind them down or cut them so that they will spread properly. I mean, there's a lot of issues that you experience in the course of a project that, I hate to say it, a lot of the extras just don't show it. They don't show how to resolve it, and if you watch their videos, they never make any mistakes. I mean, bless their hearts for doing them, though, because I wouldn't know anything about leather if it weren't for these experts putting out videos on YouTube. But when I watch their videos, it's very, very clear to me the difference between their work and mine. Absolutely. Mine's riddled with problems, like this one here even. Those perforations from not being able to make the round pocket are still there, and they'll always be there. Every time that I open that pouch, I'm going to see those perforations and know that I botched that part of the video. And there's no getting around that. So, you know, that's the thing about doing something for yourself. You got to ask yourself, can you live with it? And I can live with it because I don't care. But I wouldn't sell it like that. I wouldn't sell it with those obvious problems to somebody who expects it to be, you know, something a little nicer. Although I have to say, I really like the way this thing's turned out. Other than, if I'm being honest, I don't really like having that little pocket on the back. I think it detracts from it. Someone else will like it probably, and I'll give it to somebody, maybe a family member. But me personally, that's not something I would have on the back. I would just have a label. In fact, the second one that I'm going to be doing to sort of fine-tune my pattern and make sure that my pattern is reproducible, I am going to do a lining in it, and I'm not going to do a pocket on the back. I'm just going to do a label and leave it at that. That's the game plan. Because at the tail end of all these videos, I'm going to do a video on how to take either Illustrator or Inkscape and create an actual vector-based pattern. Because that's kind of the point of these videos, is to not only show you how to make something, but to also show you how to turn it into a pattern that you can do over and over again. And that essentially means taking whatever item you've created, scanning in a printer, creating basically a JPEG image of it through a scan, and then taking that scan and importing it into a program like Inkscape or Illustrator, and then literally creating a pattern off of it. The prototype, oddly enough, generally comes first. You might have an initial pattern, a sort of a starting point, but ultimately the pieces that you make are going to form the pattern. The pattern will be produced after the prototype. I know I'm repeating myself, but I just want to clear that the prototype's first, then the pattern. So at the tail end of this is when you'll be able to see the video on how to actually take whatever has been made and turn it into an actual pattern. There you have it. I'm almost at the point now where I'm going to be putting in the next side piece. And what I'm going to do is just tie it off when I get to the point where that other side piece will end up. I'm going to literally just tie off the threading and cut it and then start a new piece where I do the side piece. And I'm almost there. Just 1 second. Okay, we're approaching the end of this portion of the stitching. Now I'm going to have to cut this, fire all this up, and then start this piece. Okay. Okay, I just have that one part there to do. since I don't have to worry about this stitching, I'm going to start in the second hole to start, and then go through like so. Pull this through, get it about the same distance, like so. Push it through the first hole, and then I'm going to start the stitching of this one. Like so. I'm doing a double loop on this portion where I start to make sure that's nice and tight, and I'll just stitch down as I normally have, just like so. This one's going to be a little bit harder because we don't have the extra distance that we did on the other one. So I'm going to have more of a challenge with this one. But we'll try it. If I have to change needles, I will. I can tell you right now, I didn't use enough thread, but I really hated wasting that other piece. So I'm going to try to make it work anyway. Sometimes you get one that's a little bit stubborn and want to go through. Okay. Okay, I'm almost to the round, and my first challenge, and that is getting through the round without breaking through one of the sides of the holes. So I'm looking at this, and the way this is set up, I don't have a hole right there. So I'm going to have to go one loop without a hole at all, like so. Go back in through there. Not always easy to do. This one doesn't want to go through. Come on, get through that hole. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to pull through the other hole. I'm going to go in this one like this. Make sure you get through the lining. I'm going to push it through there, like so. Pull this through. I'm going to take my other one, which is all snagged up, and I am going to push it through the same hole right here. I can get it through there, like so. But I'm going to push it through this hole all the way through first, and then I'll go through this one. There you go, like that. Okay, so that'll pull down that one flap there. And before I go any further, I'm going to get into the next hole so that it doesn't break on me. So I'm going to go through this one, all the way through. Then I'll come back through this one, like so. This will try and I'm going to come through this one from the back side, right here. Then I'll go through this one right here, because I'm doing the round now. Make sure you don't loop around your item there. So now what I've got is I've got two stitched areas that need to be pulled in, like so. See that? Okay. Now I'll do the next set. Put that through there. I got through the first hole, but I got to go through the second one, like so. Try not to break through that leather. And then I'll go back through the back side of this flap, I mean the side here, carefully trying to get it into this hole right there. If I can get it. It gets a little tricky when you're doing the round portion, like so. Then I'll go back through this one, right here. Come on. There we go, finally got it. Make sure it's not wrapped around anything, including this flap or the side piece. Okay, so now I've got that piece ready to go. And it'll pull that portion of the round. Now I'm going to do this hole and that one before I do anything else. I'm not going to pull in until I get both of those holes in, because that one looks like it wants to break right there. That one looks really weak right there. Come on. I'm using my finger to sort of feel it. Doesn't seem to want to go in, so I'll go back. I'll go through the other way first, this way, where I'll start through here, like so. Then I'll push through here. I just poked myself. I'm going to do it really lightly because I don't want to break through the leather. And I'll try to get through this hole again, like so, without breaking it. Very carefully. Just like that, just pull through. Push it through this hole that it was coming out of, the other one was coming out of. So I got that. Now I'm going to do the second hole, because the second hole is a lot stronger, and that's the one it'll pull from. And that one's not going to break through. So that's why I'm going to do two holes at once this time. I can get it in there. Doesn't seem to want to go in. Okay, there we go. So you can see that part there's through. Now I'm going to go through this one, like so, and then through the second one, right like this, like so. So I now have two holes that I'm going to be pulling in, like this. Pull tight. It's being a little bit stubborn here. finally it pulled through. Okay? Okay, so now I've got a bit of a problem here. This hole's not punctured all the way through there, as you can see. So I'm not so sure it's going to work out. We'll try it. I'm really tight quarters at this point. Let's see if it's going to go through. Yeah, it's going through. If you have to, use your forceps to get down in there. The trick is trying to do this without breaking through it. You don't want to break through it. There we go. Okay. That one's in. The second side's always a little more challenging because you have a limited amount of space to work with. So you're trying to work inside of this flap right here. I'm going to push through there, one hole at a time. Don't try to do both of them at once or you're going to have a problem. Push it through the second hole. So now I've got that part through. Pull it in. Get it nice and tight. Now I'm going to do the next one. So I'm going to try going through this hole here, right, and on this flap first. I'm going to do 2 holes at once this time, like I did before, because that does not feel very strong right there. This is why using the round needle is nicer, because you can kind of push your way through the hole and feel it with your finger, so you know when you're going through, and it's not even going through. So we'll go through the other side first. Go through here, make sure you get through the lining. Then we're going to go through this hole, right there. It's hard to see it, I know, because I'm working inside of this tight space right here. But I got through that hole. Now I'm going to try to pull this one through, the same hole. Just like that. As you can see, it came through. Try not to break through it. And it's going to go through this same hole that the other one came in, out of. So now I've got one, and now I'm going to do the second one too before I pull it tight, because the second one is a little bit strong. Oh, I went too far. I went through a second hole. See that? So I literally have to push it back through and get it to... I screwed up. I went too far. Which happens sometimes. Okay, here we go. Here's the hole I'm looking for right there. Okay, I'm going to go through this one. Now I'm going to go through the second hole right there. Pull it through. And then I'll take this other thread. Be mindful of which one's which, otherwise you can lose track really easily if you're not careful. Push back through that second hole, right like that. And then into the hole it was in before, right there. Oh, I looped around this thing accidentally. Okay, so there we have it. We have 2 holes that we're going to do at the same time. This is when it's really careful, when it's really important not to split your threads. See that? You pull it right through and it just tightens it right up. So now we're going to go through this one right here. And it's going to go through this hole. We can actually do that at both at the same time. I use my forceps to get in there because it's such a tight space, like so. Now I need to get the other one in place. If you have to do one hole at a time, so be it. It's better to do that than to break through it. But this one looks a little bit stronger than the other one did, so I'm not as worried about it. if you want to do, you can push through like that, push the flap back, and then go in through the other one like so. Now I've got that hole in. I can pull this in. That was a little bit stronger, that one was. And my next hole is actually this one right there. Looks like, though, the way it's going, I might have to skip one of these holes, otherwise it's going to look a little bit weird. So I'm going to skip a hole. Use my forceps to get in there, like so. When I say skip a hole, I don't mean literally skip a hole. I mean, I'm going to do one of these holes without going into the side pocket. Just a straight stitch, like that. That helps to reinforce that other flap as well. Now I'm going to puncture, I'm going to go through this hole and I'm going to pick up that other hole, the next one. Like right there. I'll go through this first, pull it through, then I'm going to go through this hole. If you have to, get down in there, use forceps or something, needle nose pliers, whatever you have to. It's kind of a tight space right there, so this flap I'm going to kind of push out of the way so I can see it. Go into this hole there, just one at a time. Push this flap down so I can get into the other one, like so. Okay, it's coming through, just like that. Now this is fairly strong, so I'm not as worried about it breaking, but I'm not going to tug too tightly, just in case. I want to get one more solid one in before I have that problem. Okay, it looks like that one's still a little bit farther down, but we'll try it anyway. If you have to skip a hole because of the round, so be it. Don't be afraid to skip a hole and just do a stitch without tying the leather together, because it might look weird if you don't, depending on how many cuts you've done on the side. Do not split your thread when you're doing this one. It's absolutely important that that thread is intact, because if when you have a whole bunch of lead like this, if you split the thread, it's going to fray it all the way down, and that's going to be a problem with strength. Okay, so now I've got a second hole in there. Now I'm going to tug it in nice and tight. See how that's pulled that in? We're slowly making a nice round pouch. Okay, so now I'll do the next one. You can literally just push the flap down like so. Push through there. Push through the next one like so. Reach in and grab it right here. And on this you'll do the same thing. You'll just sort of push this flap. Do not split your your thread again. Push that flap down, and then just push, the side down, and then push through, like so. Okay? Then you'll reach down in here and grab this thread and pull nice and tight. We're slowly making our way down, or up now. It was down, now it's up. One hole at a time. Push through there. Push through here, reach in, grab it, like so. Do the same thing here. You're going to go through the same hole, up through there, push this down. Be careful not to split your thread, and pull tight, like this. This one's working a lot better than the other one, thankfully. So you're going to do one hole at a time. I know I keep repeating myself, but I want to make it clear that this is a process. You'll do the same thing over and over again, and you'll slowly make your way down and then up until you get it in. And in this situation, you're better off just doing one hole at a time, not trying to push through two holes at once in order to, because you'll snug it through when you do this anyway, like so. You can see it's snugging it all in all along that edge, and you're literally making a pouch. Okay, so we're going to do the next one. Same procedure. Like so. Reach in and grab it. Push in through the same hole. Push this down. Push through. And then tug. So we're literally doing an internal stitch. Very similar to an internal stitch. And we're doing this without any special, well, I used a forceps in a little bit, but you technically could have done it without one. Push down there and pull tight. We only got 2 holes left here. And you'll see now I've hit where the other thread ended, so it's going to be a little bit harder to push through here. So be really careful when you do that. You don't nick your fingers with this needle. Even though it's a round tip needle, it can still hurt. Okay. I'm getting close. It'll be a little bit harder to push through because you have thread already in that hole. But the advantage of having that is it helps to, when you tug on it, that extra thread puts a lot more pressure on that thread, and it's a lot less likely to come out. And you really want that at these critical points like this. It's just a little bit more difficult to get it in, that's all. Okay, we're going to push through there. Almost to the end here, finally. We go there, we go, get it in here. Push it through, nice and tight, and then tug on it. Okay, now you have a choice. I'm going to go up one more hole just so I can loop over that edge. I want to make sure that edge is looped over, like so. You can see inside there, I'm going to loop right over the edge of that leather to help hold it in place. Provide a little bit of extra strength. Because you really need it at these critical points. And then I'll pull tight. And then I'm going to go back through and try to get it in here. I mean, we got like 3 or 4 layers of thread now. If you have to use something like forceps or Nino's pliers, by all means use it. Because it's going to be a lot harder to get it in there with all those layers. Try not to poke yourself. There we go. It went. Oop, I only went through 1 layer. I got to go a little bit more over, like here. Come on, get on in there. Make sure it went through, and it did. Okay, good. Grab it on the other side here. Okay. Got a nice strong, and I'm going to try to push it back through this way now, using the forceps again. That's why my needles are all bent. Okay, get it in there. You can see it went through. It's being a little bit tricky, but it did go through. Okay. I'm going to do 1 more through right here, and then I'm going to tie it off. And then my pouch will be done. Once and for all. Make sure you get through the hole right. If you don't get it, it's not going to be done properly. It's got to actually go through both areas. Let's see. Yep, there you see. You can see it. It went through that hole there. That's what I needed. Now I'm going to grab it with a forceps and pull it through. like so. And I'm going to tighten that up, get it nice and tight, both sides, nice and tight. And I'm going to trim it off with my razor. Be really careful here. And I'll find this. I'll do the outside first, no problem. I'm just going to burn it, get it nice and burned. Smooth that in. Now I'm going to burn the inside here, right there where those things are first. Make sure that those are pushed over, and then I'm just going to try to burn it up and inside there with this nice long lighter. And there we have it. We now have a pouch. And we'll see how the buttons work now. Take a little bit of getting used to. Eventually this will sort of soften up a little bit, and you'll end up with a little bit more. There you have it. Got your sides on, you got your back pouch, and you got your front pouch. If I had to do it over again, I would have added about ½ inch of the length to the length. That would have made this a little bit easier to wrap over, because that is really pushing it a little bit. This button's not, something wrong with this button, but there you have it. It's done.